Hello and welcome to The Man Who Kept Dying. My name is Vincent Olivier. I am the author of the novel The Man Who Kept Dying, and I am the man who kept dying. I've done a long series of videos on YouTube covering many topics that I have explored in the novel The Man Who Kept Dying. One topic that I have not explored is about negative entities or negative spirits. And the reason for this is because I believe that there is no such thing as a negative spirit. However, yes, there are spirits of lower consciousness, and there are spirits that are lost. And let's cover that in this video. So in this video, I will share with you my experiences with negative spirits. And there are topics that I will not cover because I do not have any experience with them. Such topics would be cases of possessions. I've read a lot about it, I was fascinated about it for a while, but I have no personal experience with them, so I'm not going to cover that topic. In the exact same way, I will not cover topics that are linked to paranormal activities or demonic entities or this and that. What I will share with you, however, are my experiences with helping souls cross to the other side, with encountering ghosts in different properties, as well as actually exploring during my dream states what I will label as the lower realms, in which there are lots of entities that you would very easily label as negative spirits or negative entities. And what I have found with all those entities or spirits is very simple. It is a bit like on Earth. You will see that there are different levels of consciousness and there are different levels of intelligence, there are different levels of emotional understanding of each other and so on. The exact same thing happens on the spirit side. At least this is my understanding through my own experience of it. So let's start with perhaps what is the simplest and the topic that will generate the less fear. Because, and I'm opening a parenthesis here, I understand that talking about negative spirits can bring fear to some people. Some people might not be comfortable with the topic or the subject, and that's why I'm saying, in my opinion, there aren't really any negative spirits. There are just spirits of different levels of consciousness. But this video is not to do any fear mongering, it's not to scare anyone. It really is to share my experience, positive and negative at times, and the fact that I'm very comfortable in sharing it. So maybe one thing I should mention right away is that no spirits can ever control you, good or bad, positive or negative. So let's remind ourselves of that as we progress through the video. End of the parenthesis. As I was saying, let's start with the easiest context perhaps. For a long while, as I was falling asleep, every night, I was very aware of my falling asleep process. So for most people, and that's the case for me in these days, again, you go to bed, you're tired, you transition into dream state, and you wake up sometimes a few hours later, if not in the morning, and you have no idea how you fell asleep. For me, for many years, it was quite the opposite. I was very aware of falling asleep and going through layer after layer after layer after layer of different realms, different realities, until I would find myself in dream state. Now, because I did not really understand the other side, the nature of reality, those events did take place before my near-death experience, my knowledge was quite limited, and I was quite fearful of the situation. Very often what would happen is, as I'm falling asleep, I find myself in a dark void or dark place, and I'm conscious that I am falling asleep, and right away someone would come to me. It could be someone who looks like a human. Sometimes it will also be someone that looks like they've gone through some quite important physical trauma. So like their face is completely lacerated, they're covered in blood, or they're missing parts of their bodies. uh, entities or spirits that are really, sorry to put it that way, but really not nice to look at. And I would be very scared of them. What do you want? And they would come to me, and most of the time as well, they would speak in a language that I don't even understand. So they could be speaking Indian, Arabic, whatever language. Okay, I speak French, English, Spanish. Can you at least speak one of those three languages so that we can understand each other? No, they would come to me. And they would be very forceful as well. I understand they want something out of me, but I'm not able to give it to them because I really don't understand what they're trying to say to me. And as this conversation really is them talking in their language and me saying I don't understand what you're saying. Can you just speak in my language so at least I can point you in the right direction and give you a level of support if I can? No, this is not happening. They get more frustrated. I get more fearful because I'm like, well, what is he going to do? Most times he would also be men rather than women. And after a while, for some reason, the same pattern would always happen. They disappear. And I find myself still going through my dream state. But I could see at one point almost on a nightly basis, 1, 2, 3 different entities per night, not knowing what to do. That happened for a while when I was in my 20s, 30s, it would come in cycles and then it would disappear. But every time I would be so scared because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if they wanted to take me somewhere where I could be left vulnerable. It was a difficult experience to go through, I must say. Following my near-death experience, I started to be less fearful of those entities because I thought hang on a second, now I understand that life continues after we die. And now I understand that my consciousness is eternal, so I should have nothing to fear. The question is more, why are these beings coming to me? And it seems at least my understanding is, I was going through what we would label as the lower realms. So people that have died a violent death would very often find themselves still on the earth plane, but they are like ghosts. And they basically don't have that consciousness that they've died because they still see the reality as it is. To a certain extent, they can interact with it, but they're looking for their way out. When I had my near-death experience, very quickly I saw a light. I went towards that light. In that light were 4 beings waiting for me. I recognized them. At the time, I could not see their face. This year, a few weeks ago, I actually got to meet them for the first time in a lucid dream state. But that was my near-death experience. Right away, I was pointed in a specific direction, although one could say that I died from pain, intense physical and repeated physical pain over the course of 3 days. So the death was sudden, but it was not a sudden accident or something that you did not see coming. I guess if you have an accident and you did not see it happening, you could find yourself in a situation in which you believe you still are alive, but you're not. And it can take you quite a while to actually realize that you're in spirit form now, and you need to move back to the spirit side. So there is that near earth realm, that's a mouthful to pronounce for a French person, sorry, that will have a lot of entities. My understanding now is, or from the information I gathered from the spirit side, is that the near earth realm are becoming more and more empty because souls are transitioning a lot faster in this day and age than they used to a few years back. But I decided that I should interact with those souls. And the way I could interact with them was simply, even though I could not communicate in the same language, I would just say, energetically speaking, I would just transmit an energy to them. And at first, my action was to tell them, hey, maybe you're dead, but you don't realize it. So somewhere there is a light that is waiting for you, or there is someone that is waiting for you. The best thing you could do is to try to find that light. I'm not going to find it for you. It seems like it's all very personal. So you need to find that light wherever it is, and you go through that. I had no idea if I was giving the right advice or if I was doing something completely ludicrous. It's a bit of a tricky situation. You don't really know. Am I playing with this person's spirit or not? I'm just trying to be helpful, but am I actually doing something wrong? All those thoughts were going through my mind. And am I going to attach negative entities to me as well because they're going to get stuck? But what I found very quickly is an energy communication seems to get in place. And they would thank me actually for reminding them of the situation in their language, but I would be able to understand it. And their body language and their energy as well would become less agitated. They'd become a lot more calm, a lot more thankful for the interaction. What I had not realized at the time, by starting to do that, is that I became a helper every single freaking night before falling asleep to thousands of lost spirits. To the point where I got really tired because every night before falling asleep, I would just go through that near-earth realm. There would be like souls, almost as if the world was going by. Hey, when that person's falling asleep, you need to interact with them. And I know there are many mediums who do that. Why it happened to me, I still am clueless about it, but I'm just sharing that experience. The point I wanted to make was after a while, I got really tired of having to go through that every evening, to the point I was also becoming a bit forceful with those spirits. And I would almost say like, hey, if there are like, I don't know, like 8 to 10 of you waiting tonight, just all in one go, this is what I have to say to you. No, I just want to fall asleep. Bugger off, please. You're preventing me from resting well, and I need a good rest. I need a good night's sleep to go through my life. So I remember full well at one point having a bit of an epiphany. I don't know if you've ever done any programmation of databases or websites, more the IT stuff. When I was at uni, I did a bit of that. And basically, if you want to look in a database of items, say you own like a clothing store, and you want to look at, how many items you have in your database or in stock, you can just go on a computer and it will return to you the result. But there is a lot of coding that is happening in the background. And I remember that coding, and one such language was called SQL, SQL language. And basically, to search in a database, you could say, select star, and star means everything, from whatever my store, for example. And if you have a store in one location, store in that location, and you would say, you have like 4,441 items. Something, just a basic example. I'm not a programmer in this day and age. And I remember that moment where I thought, like, I spoke to the universe and I said, hey, universe, I'm fed up with, not that I don't want to help any of the spirits, but I'm just fed up because I'm trying to fall asleep, and every night it's preventing me from doing so for a long while. And there are more and more and more spirits lining up every night. I'm not even sure I'm doing the right thing with them. It seems to work okay because I seem to be quite popular. Nonetheless, I would like for this to stop. And but I don't want to leave all those spirits completely lost. I still want to do something for them. Can we do a select star on all lost spirits and send them to the other side? The moment I say that, and remember, I'm still in half asleep, so I'm asleep, but I'm not in dream state. I'm still in that consciousness moment where I'm in that in-between state, but I'm very conscious of everything I'm saying, I'm doing. The moment I say that, I see thousands of thousands, a huge number of spirits just cramming on top of each other. And it's like there's kind of a plateau, and they're all on that plateau, and it just sort of like goes down because like of the weight of all these entities. And they're all saying like, yes, please, yes, please, yes, please. And I hear a voice back that says, listen, Vincent, that is a very good idea, but that's just not going to be possible. If that happens, you have no idea how much of a mess the other side is going to be, because those souls need to go individually one by one, not all in one go. So I was disappointed by the answer. And at the same time, I was wondering, why is it that there seems to be something broken? Like why is it that some souls would die a violent or a sudden death, and be stuck. It seems to be quite unfair to me. So why can't all those souls have a right to go through a normal process and go back to their spirit nature? I never really got the answer to why that is the case, or why that was the case, because it seems like in recent months and years there's been a lot of clearing happening. Did they use my solution? I don't know. I would hate to pretend that they did, because who am I, to suggest such thing? And I'm sure there are lots of different ways. And we're talking about something about which I don't even have a very conscious understanding as a human on this planet. So that was the first part of, the more light touch of helping souls cross to the other side. If someone passes away in my family, again, I would connect to that person, and very often I would just have a message. I would know where they are, if they're happy, how things are for them. It's very brief. After that experience where I suggested the select star, it really, really calmed down the helping souls cross to the other side through that manner. I've had it episodically ever since, but it's very random. It would happen on one evening before I fall asleep, and I would always have that conversation with that soul. Says, hey, I think we're in spirit form right now. What happened to you? Can you remember? You just need to go within, find the answers for yourself, and you will very quickly remember where you are, what's happening, and where you need to go. And it always seems to be working fine. If I were to share that with some people would just freak out. And I know I will mention no name. I'm quite certain there is one listener, at least, who is going to think that what I'm doing is very dangerous, that I could attach myself to negative entities and so on. But let me tell you, it is not my perspective that it is the case. And therefore, nothing has ever happened that would suggest that some of these entities are all being lined up behind me at the moment I'm doing this video. The second type of encounters I've got with so-called negative spirits would be with ghosts. And I was very fearful of ghosts when I was a kid. I don't know I cannot remember if it is because I've seen some, but I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would be freaking out that I can feel there's someone in my bedroom, or I can see a shadow, all those things. But I guess most kids are like that. The encounters with ghosts are coming mostly, again, in dream state. For me, my dream state is where I receive a lot of information, where I'm connecting a lot. I'm a very lucid dreamer. I've done some specific videos about lucid dreaming, and it seems to be, at least for me, my way of connecting to the spirit side. So I don't consider myself to be a medium, although through meditation I could access some information. It's more when I sleep. I've got all these very vivid, lucid experiences that I can remember in the morning. So very often when I go to a new place, or when the first night I sleep in that new place, I would have a dream. If there is a ghost, or if there is an entity or a spirit or a soul that is still present in that place. It happened when I moved to the place before this, the one I'm living in right now. I found it was just a rental place, but I found a pair of glasses, and I didn't know who they belonged to. They didn't seem to belong to the previous tenant, nor did they belong to the landlady. And I just chucked them away because I thought, I'm not going to use them. They're not of any use anyway. And that night, maybe it was a couple of nights after we've moved in, but anyway, the night after I decided I would check the glasses. In dream state, someone came to me, a man, not too old, I would say, maybe, in his 50s or early 60s at the latest. He asked me, where are my glasses? And I remember saying, well, the one I've thrown in the bin that's going for recycling. Yes, precisely, is what he said. Well, listen, do you really need your glasses right now? And that man looks at me and says, well, actually, no, you're right. I can see you very clearly. I don't need my glasses. I say, well, you see, I think you might be in spirit form and you've not realized it yet. He thanked me, and I've never seen that man again, ever, in my dreams whatsoever. Another example that took place in the property I'm currently living in France. The previous property I was mentioning was in the UK as well. But this one in France When I moved in, it was not instant, but it is a property that has sort of a garage and a central heating system is kind of below the ground, and then you have the property itself. When I was going through the heating unit and the garage and so on, every evening I would feel a very dark entity, something quite heavy, something quite negative, almost if I was being followed whenever I was going back upstairs. I never really liked it, but again, I'm not someone who's fearful nowadays of these negative entities. And I didn't give it much thought until one night, and this is a true story. I wake up and there is a very tall being of whom I cannot see the face. It is very strange. That person is standing in front of my bed. So it's like I open my eyes, and what I will explain may not makes a lot of sense, but I'm not opening my physical eyes. I'm opening what I call my spiritual eyes. So basically my body is asleep, but I have that capability to see in the room and to move around as if my body was not. Some people call it out-of-body experience. Some people may call it slightly differently, but that's my experience. I call it seeing through my spirit eyes. So I see that entity standing very tall in front of my bed. Not only that, but that entity has got no facial features. So let me rephrase that. I cannot see eyes, nose, mouth, but it's got like the shape of some eyes, but without any eyebrow, without any eyes actually looking into it. It's got the shape of a nose, but that's very clearly undefined. So it's a bit as if it was a mask that that person is wearing. And I just remember looking at that person or that soul or that entity or that negative spirit, because it really projected negative energy, and said, okay, what is it you want? And right away it goes like, raises its arms and starts throwing like a storm of negative energy towards me. And it's like everything is spinning around in the room. And I'm very calm in the situation. I'm just looking at it saying like, why are you just trying to scare me? So I remember taking the divot, again, spirit form, putting it slightly above my face and being like, almost not protecting myself, but saying like, hang on, I need to take a step back. And he tried to really forced all that negative energy in me. I was not even sort of being too reactive, but I was having none of it. Once he had finished, I remember saying, is that all? Because honestly, like, that's not going to trouble me in the slightest. He did seem very disappointed by that remark. And I said, listen, if you are the entity that is around the garage area or near the central heating system, I'm going to ask you to leave, because I've got no space in my own home for this kind of energy. So can you please leave now? And it just disappeared like that. And I've never felt ever again that negative presence. It disappeared overnight. Having said that, my cat went there the other day and ran back at full speed as if he had seen a ghost. So there might be other ghosts in the house, but they don't seem to be such negative entities or spirits. Now you might say, Vincent, this is a bit of a crazy story. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Because you could be dealing with some kind of really, really negative entities there. And that could be very dangerous. Again, I am very comfortable with that. I've never visited a haunted property or a supposedly haunted house. I don't know what would happen if I were to do that. I know my limits. I know where I'm comfortable and where I'm not. One thing I can tell you for sure is you can tell negative entities to go bugger off. I will conclude the video on that front, but before that, I will also share why I'm not too scared by those negative entities. The reason is because when I was doing all that integration of reality from the other side and the true nature of reality and so on, as I said at the beginning of the video, my view or my perspective is that there's no such thing as a negative spirit. There are spirits with different levels of consciousness. And as you see on Earth, there are good and less good people, or aware and less aware people. It is the exact same thing that is happening on the spirit side. Also, I have very often explored the lower realms of the spirit side. And I've understood something about negative spirits. It is, simply put, that they feed off your fear. So if you are not in fear, or if you don't display any fear, they cannot feed off anything. They really believe that in order to grow, they need to steal from you, or they need to steal from someone. And fear is a very potent energy. So they believe that if they can make you fear them, or if they can put you in a fearful situation, they really nourish themselves from that. And it gives them power, the illusion of power, but they feel nonetheless at their level of understanding and consciousness that it makes them more powerful. In dream state, because as I've said so many times now, I'm such a lucid dreamer, I have found myself so many times exploring what I call the lower realms of the universe, and basically where you have less conscious spirits. I remember one time precisely that left me really laughing, because you have to be quite comfortable if you go there, I will be honest with you. I would not have been many years ago, and I don't tend to specifically project myself over there consciously. I just happen to find myself there, and I guess maybe I have a purpose or I have something to do there, but if I find myself there, I know how to handle myself in these situations. But interestingly, the specific dream I want to share with you was one during which I find myself with a group of those so-called negative entities. And they try all sort of things with me. So they try to scare me. I'm not scared. They try to tell me things to make me feel fear. I don't feel fear. And I'm just standing there and saying, no, I'm not challenging them. I'm not like nudging them to say, what have you got? I'm just saying, like, have you finished, or are you going to grow? And they got me at one point, because they were really trying to make me believe that I was lost forever with them, that I would have to spend time forever with them, and that I was dead. And I was like, I'm not worried about that. I don't have to spend forever with you. I'm not dead. I know I'm still alive. And even if I was dead, it's not a big deal. I would find my way. And they were really bugged or not understanding the fact that I was not fearing anything. And you could tell they were like brainstorming about ways to generate fear in me, until one turns and says something that got me for a couple of seconds. I still remember the exact words to this day, because he said, actually, Vincent, you're not really understanding the situation there. You are immortal on Earth. You will never die. Look at your life. You've died multiple times, but every time you came back, even the last time when you were really supposed to be dead, you still are there. So you are trapped forever on planet Earth. That is your destiny. And I remember stopping for a couple of seconds and thinking, my God, could be right. Okay, I'm not a big fan of Earth. I really want for it to be my last life. And what if he's right? What if actually I could never die? And I'm trapped forever on Earth? And at that moment, there were 3 of them, or 4 of them. I don't remember the exact number, but let's say 3 to 4. They all start laughing, and they all start like feeding off that very little moment, or those couple of seconds where I was considering the possibility, and I was being fearful of it. And right away, I understood. I was like, okay, guys, really well done on you. You tricked me. You had me for a second there. And what was really funny about that situation is that we all had a laugh, because I said, well done on you guys. And in a way, they appreciated that I acknowledged they had managed to find a crack in me, so to speak, and they had managed to find a way to get into generating fear from me. So at that stage, I was like, okay, I've got nothing else to do with you. Well done. But I mean, stop doing that. You guys should grow after a while. In any case, you will understand that you can't feed off fear forever. You need to go through a stage where things are going to be different for you. and you will understand that you don't have to do that. So in a way, we parted ways strangely with an acknowledgement of each other's perspective, which I think was great. So these are all the reasons why I was not too particularly fussed when I woke up and saw an entity in front of my bed trying to project negative energy towards me. I think I had sensed that it could happen, and the day it happened, it just happened, and I knew how to deal with it. Now, I'm not a superhero. There certainly are situations that I would be absolutely clueless to handle. And there are situations, as I said, cases of possessions, going to a haunted house or trying to connect with the dead. Those things I'm not trying to do. If you follow the video up until this moment, you will also have realized that I never willingly or actively sought those experiences. They just came to me, and I've just learned over time how to deal with them. One question I still have for myself is, I don't know about my mediumship abilities, and I've never met someone who's a medium with whom I could have that conversation. So if you're a medium and you're watching this video, even though you're watching it like many months or years after I've recorded, if you feel there's something about me and deceased people or whatever, just let me know in the comments. I'd be very curious to hear about it, or to read your comments about it, and then we can get in touch perhaps. To conclude the video, I would like to give a few takeaways about negative spirits in case you are frightened by them or you fear them. And the takeaways are the following ones. Don't fear them, because fear attracts them. The simple fact that you fear them will attract them in your energy field. So try not to fear them as much as you can. Secondly, if you find yourself in the same situation as I was, help them find their way. If they ask you to, of course. If they don't ask you, you don't have to. But if they ask you to help them, just try to provide whatever help of support you can. Some of them are really lost and they're really looking for answers, or at least a direction. Thirdly, and that's the last point, you have the power and the right to tell them to get away from your life, or to bugger off, as I like to say, if you want to. And they have to obey you, is quite a strong word, but they have to abide by your wishes. Because in the exact same way that they want to attach to you, you can ask them to not attach to you. And don't hesitate. Sometimes you might feel that you have to be forceful in order to do so, but don't hesitate to do it, because ultimately no spirit is supposed to be around you with a negative energy. And even if you feel like you're not really comfortable doing that, I do hope that the experience I've shared with you could make me a bit more confident that you shouldn't have any fear in doing so, and sometimes being a bit forceful or a bit abrupt about your delivery. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been meaning to do it for quite a few months now. I could never really find the time, and also I really wanted to wrap up all the concepts in the novel first before I would get to other concepts, let's put it that way, that I have not explored in the novel The Man Who Kept Dying. Please share your experiences about spirits, positive or negative. And yes, I hope you did enjoy that video, and I hope you found this video interesting, and of course I'll continue to do more. And until next time, you know the drill. Be conscious, my friends.